Okay, we are down to the last video now. We got 7 randoms left, and we're gonna end with Monogatari off season. So let's see what we roll next. It's gonna be 4. What's 4? ATRI, My Dear Moments. Did not see anyone talk about this. I think this is a light novel or visual novel. I'm not sure. Let's check it out. What the fuck is Troika doing adapting a visual novel into animation in 2024? What year is it? Yeah, I got like a little over halfway through the first episode of ATRI or ATRI, My Dear Moments. It is all tropes, no substance, mostly. Aside from Mr. PTSD main character, which is like every visual novel protagonist. Well, most of them. It's certainly a lot of them. Like outside of that, he has like no personality. He's just very serious and not interesting to watch. No one in the show is interesting to watch except maybe the older lady character. She's not an older lady. She's like the woman who is like slightly older than all of the other fucking teenagers that she's around. And also she's voiced by Yoko Hisaka, which means that she's the only competent one on this cast, I guess, because the voice acting is particularly not good. It is particularly like overly saccharine and corny. Like the childhood best friend character, when she does the pout face, it's like, it is just like pure fake sugar, and it's just nothing about this show is fun. It's trying to do like the tropes that you know, but it doesn't do them particularly well. So there's nothing really hooking me aside from the fact that this is in like a post-climate catastrophe world. They don't say that it's caused by global warming, but it is basically the effects of global warming where the sea level rises, and it kind of just made me want to watch fucking, what do you call it, Yokohama Shopping Log. Just want to make, because I've only seen the second set of OVAs for that one. I never saw the first one, so I do need to go back and watch that. I read all of the manga at this point. I just finished up the final volume like a month ago, maybe. Seven Seas put out the whole manga in a big omnibus collection. So I would definitely recommend that. But not this show. This one's kind of boring. Looks halfway decent for a visual novel adaptation. But it's also only 13 episodes, and none of the visual novel adaptations that I've watched that are good are shorter than 2 cours. And it's like, I'm not going to shit on it for being an adaptation of a visual novel. Like, some of my favorite stuff is adaptations of visual novels, like Steins Gate and Clannad and Higurashi. It's like, there's a lot of good stuff there, just not here. Okay, ATRI coming off the list, down to 6 randoms left. Let's see what it's gonna be. It is 1. Okay, The Fable. This is a Hulu show that got a shit ton of marketing before it came out, and then no one I know watched it, probably because it's a Hulu show. I think it's about delinquents and stuff, like a little bit more traditionally delinquent than Windbreaker, maybe. Let's see if I'm right. Yeah, I don't think this one's for me, to be honest. Got about a little bit into the second episode of The Fable. This one's actually a like Yakuza assassination kind of show. I haven't seen Golgo 13, but this is what I think Golgo 13 is, sort of. except the main character for the Fable is a socially inept killing savant. First episode was pretty decent. There's a lot of humor that I'm pretty sure was supposed to be, like, funnier than it was, I think. I just didn't... It's just kind of like... heh. Like, light giggle kind of stuff. And there were a few decent, like... Not necessarily action cuts, but just, like, cool... There was, like, a cool kill in the first episode, and, like, some cool, like, moving across the setting kind of stuff. But apparently the premise for this one is he has to go off, move to, like, Osaka, and then live for a year without killing anyone. So what the fuck is the point of this show, then? He's gonna, like, incapacitate people in, like, cool, super cool and weird ways, like he did with the car burglars in the first episode, which was, like, okay. It wasn't, like, bad, but I wasn't, like, blown away by it. This is not a show that's going to, like, rouse any excitement in me, I don't think. And also, the second episode had a pretty notable animation fall off. I'm not a huge fan of the color design. It's a little too skunky for me, if that makes any sense. Most of the characters are pretty bland. Not all that interesting. I should point out, though, that apparently this is directed by... I forgot what his name is, but it's the guy who, like, the original creator of, like, Gasaraki and Blue Gender and just, like, a lot of the weird sci-fi anime that, like, people used to talk about, like, 20 years ago. He's been working since, like, the 80s or 70s or something. So, fucking old-ass director. So, and it's definitely got that kind of vibe to it, maybe? This would have... I could see this coming out in, like, the 80s or 90s or something. But I just don't... The vibe's not... the vibe is off, I guess. And it's just not particularly interesting. If I were to, like, finish this, it'd be like a flat 5 at most, probably. And this is 2 cores, so definitely not doing that. Okay, the Fable is off the list. Down to 5 randoms left. Let's see what's next. It's gonna be 2. What is 2? Love is Indivisible by Twins. I think this is like a ecchi rom-com or a harem rom-com, I think, with, like, twins as the main love interests. I only saw advertising for it, like, after the season was already over, which was weird. Fuck it, let's give it a go. Holy fuck, this show is boring. I got, like, 8.5 minutes into the first episode of Love is Indivisible by Twins, and it's so boring. It's just, like, it's all of this is, like, flashback so far. It's, like, the first 8 minutes is, like, all flashback, and it's just, like, how one of the twins fell in love with the main guy, but it's so fucking boring. It's trite and rote and just... It says nothing about anything. Well, actually, that's not true, actually. It says nothing about the girl who fell in love with him. And she is so fucking bland and boring. She is nothing. Where it's like... I want to know about the love story that's happening with the other twin and the main guy, which I presume I will at some point. But at this point, it's, like, so fucking boring. Because it's like the other two are just rattling off, like, different literature stuff and stuff like it. He's reading, and they actually say it by name. Like, they don't hide it behind, like, copyright-friendly names or anything. Like, they reference Lord of the Rings and Edgar Rice Burroughs and Berserk and Gin Saga. And so it's like, which is kind of cool because I can sort of get a sense for what kind of literature they enjoy. So that's cool. Like, they're into very, very heavily structured fantasies. So I like that. But that's all we know. And it's more than the other twin that we've been following for like the last 8.5 minutes. But mostly it's just fucking boring. It is so not interestingly written. I don't care about this love triangle that's forming at all, because I don't like when a love triangle is like immediately thrust upon me, where it's like, you need to care right now. Why do I need to care right now? I don't know anything about these people yet. Why should I care about this love triangle? Also, it's very mid looking. It is polishing up a very average looking rock. There's a lot of post-production slapped on this thing, but the bones of it are just super fucking average. Character designs are absolutely nothing to write home about. I would not... both of the twins in this look like they would be background characters in the average anime. They are nothing designs. It's so not interesting to look at. I have no interest at all in this show. Okay, Love is Indivisible by Twins. Off the list, down to the last 5 shows of the season. But we got 4 randoms left. Let's see what we roll next. 1. Alright, Pseudo Harem. This is probably one of the last ones on here, aside from Monogatari, that I might actually finish. I know this is a big Saori Hayami voice acting showcase. She's one of my favorites, so don't let me down. You know, that's another one that I really, really wanted to like, but no, it just didn't land. I actually got like 7.5 episodes into Pseudo Harem, which is like shortly after the confession. So, like, there's a confession in this show, and I still dropped it because there are 2 main problems with the show. The first is it looks like fucking dog shit. This is a bad production. Character designs are super fucking weak, except for our main girl, Rin, who is most of the time very cute. Even when she is jank as fuck, she is very cute. I will give it that. But everything else looks pretty terrible. Like, some of the like set designs, like the houses and buildings and stuff, look like very blocky and unnatural in like the stuff that is putting them together. All of the shots are like very plain and straightforward. Nothing going on at all with the cinematography. Color palette is pretty bland. It's mostly like... It's got like the OG Origairu palette, almost, where it's just very, if I'm recalling correctly, where it's just like very bland and just like a lot of like black and gray tones with a little bit of like school uniform color added to it. But then occasionally it'll have just like these random like beautiful scenery shots out of nowhere. I think it's like episode 7 or something, where they go on their like trip to Kyoto. Just this shot of Mount Fuji with these flowers in the foreground. It's like, where the fuck did this come from? And why doesn't the rest of the show look like this? So, yeah, this was actually made by Studio Nomad. I don't expect any of you to know what Studio Nomad is. I guess at this point, they're most famous for Jashin Dropkick. What I know them from is the original Yozakura Quartet. So that tells you how old I am. Like the original one, like not the remakes, the original, way back. I can't believe 2008 is way back. So they're not a great studio. Anytime they come up, I'm like, whew, well, spin the dice, roll the dice, because they also worked with Tsutomu Mizushima a little bit. Like I think they did Dokuro-chan, and they did co-production on season 2 of Squid Girl. Did I watch season 2? I don't remember if I watched season 2 of Squid Girl or not. Huh. I'll have to check that. Anyway, this show looks fucking terrible. Which leads into, like, the second problem well, it doesn't really lead into, but it's sort of like, it does not help the problem of number 2. This show is just pure sugar. There is no substance, no character, no, like, characterization, no, like, notable character, like, tension or, like, interesting characterization. There's a little bit of that, but, like, this is, like, 99% just pure sugar. And you know what? Sugar tastes good. For a while. But then your teeth start to hurt. And you have to stop eating just plain sugar. Because as I went on with the series, I was laughing less and less because the scenarios just started repeating over and over and over again. And there was, like, less variety as the show progressed. And it's just like the bit is funny, or the bit is amusing, I will give that. It's not funny, it's amusing for the most part, and it just triggers the, like, whatever in my brain that goes, ooh, I like that voice. Because you know what? I'll give them credit for this. This is a show premised entirely around the voice acting of Saori Hayami. Even though this is based on a manga, apparently, that only had, like, 6 volumes. Oh, that's another thing. This show fucking speeds through shit. Like, they go through, like, 2 years of high school in 7 episodes. That's really fucking fast. And so I think they just wanted to cram I think there were, like, 6 volumes of the manga, and I think they just wanted to cram it all into this season. But the consequence of that is that there's no fucking substance. I don't know if there is more substance in the manga, but there might be. Might be paced out better. And also, okay, I keep remembering all of the things about this production that drive me fucking insane. It's like, the transitions, like, to different scenes are fucking terrible. There is, like, barely any prep at all before it's just like, okay, now we're in a completely different scenario now. And it's, like, giving me fucking whiplash. But anyway, the premise of this show is that it's about, like, theater kids, and Saori Hayami voices the main girl, Rin, and the main guy, who's actually voiced by Nobuhiko Okamoto, I believe, who is, like, Bakugo from My Hero, and Rin Okamura from Blue Exorcist. So, real shouty kind of guy. I don't know if he's the person that I would have gotten for this role, but he kind of works. But basically, he just gets Rin, the girl, to do different, like, anime personalities. And so we get Saori Hayami doing, like, a tsundere voice, or a cool girl voice, or a little sister voice. And you know what? Hats off to her. She did a bang-up fucking job of it. Saori Hayami is not someone that I expect range from, except when she's in, actually, no. That's not her. In Monogatari, she's Yotsugi. So, not a ton of range there. But more than I would more than average for a Saori Hayami role. Mostly I just know her for she's either very demure or very ditzy kind of characters. If you don't know who I'm talking about, she plays Yor in Spy Family. She is Shiroyuki Hime in Snow White with the Red Hair. I've brought her up so many times on this show. And she's one of my favorites for obvious reasons. She's fucking good. And goddamn, she nails the material given to her here. Like, she actually does a good job of portraying these different personalities. But the joke just gets old. And eventually you just have too much sugar and you need to stop. It just stopped being fun. And that kind of sucks. Okay, Pseudo Harem, unfortunately, coming off the list, down to 3 more randoms. So let's see what we roll next. It's going to be 2. My wife has no emotions. Some kind of rom-com with a robot, I think? Unsure. Let's find out. Hey, Mom, can we get Chobits? We have Chobits at home, honey. The Chobits at home. Yeah, this one's not good. It's surprisingly polished looking. This is a Tezuka Pro show, Tezuka production. And their shows are very hit and miss in terms of quality. This one actually seems to be more on the higher end side. At the very least, it's very polished looking, and it's got some interesting camera work sometimes. But by God, this story is not interesting. I make the Chobits comparison for a reason outside of just having the similar premise of robot waifu. Because with Chobits, it's I don't know about the anime, haven't seen the anime, but the manga, it actually has something to say right away, right off the bat, about relationships with AI intelligence. And this show just seems to be I have a robot waifu, and I'm a dumb husband. But they're not actually married, I don't think. Not yet, I guess. And they don't have chemistry at all. It's just this fucking sad, lonely dude who wants to marry a robot wife because he's got no one else. And that's real fucking sad. And, lame. I don't particularly care where it goes from here. No. Okay, my wife has no emotions. Off the list. 2 randoms left. Which one's it gonna be first? 2. So, Shoshimin. How to Become Ordinary. I misspelled How to Become Ordinary. This is if I recall, this is a Mamoru Kanbei anime based off of a series by the guy who wrote Hyoka. Haven't seen much of Hyoka, but I do have quite a lot of experience with Mamoru Kanbei. For better or for worse. So let's see how this one goes. There are very few things that I dislike more than a show that thinks it's so fucking clever. I got about halfway through the first episode of Shoshimin, How to Become Ordinary, which I'm gonna jump into that right away. I think the premise for the show is these 2 main characters have set up rules for themselves on that they must act like normal people. Don't know fucking why, other than they want to fit in. Like, there's no clues that they were shunned in the past for not fitting in, and that would make them stick to this fucking ridiculous set of principles, which one of the principles is don't turn down favors from anyone, which, like, I don't know, man. You can turn down a favor every now and then if you're running late for something, which they are. That makes you pretty pretty ordinary and normal. I guess you could make the argument like they're high schoolers, they don't know any better, but like no high schooler would fucking think it. Well, again, no American high schooler would think of this, I don't think. Again, this like Japanese collectivism thing of like don't stand out, you must blend in, all of that shit. I can't. Whenever that shows up in anime, it immediately rubs me the wrong way. Because like I just cannot fucking understand it. I just really can't. But in this one in particular, they're just fucking being kind of pretentious about it. Which is a shame, because this show is actually really fucking pretty. Some of the character designs I have look a little bit, like, weird. Not in, like, poorly animated, just in, like, the specific nuances of their design. But it does make them stand out. Main girl's real fucking cute. And I like her voice actress. She is, what's it, Hina Yomiya? She voiced Fu and Mayonaka Punch and some other stuff that I forgot already when I looked her up on Mal. But she's good. And the show's real fucking pretty. Really great lighting and color design. I don't know why it's letterboxed, but it is. Everything's very crisp and clean. It's a really goddamn good-looking show. I don't know what studio made this. I'm gonna guess it's either Cloverworks or A1. I'm not sure. But I just cannot vibe with the writing for this show. It feels like what immediately struck me is like the pacing of the dialogue and the type of dialogue being spoken doesn't feel right. It feels off. It feels stilted and janky and like immensely artificial. Maybe that's the point. Maybe. But that doesn't make it enjoyable to watch. So, whatever. And it just kept getting like weirder and weirder from there. Like this weird mystery thing about trying to find a missing bag. And like it's presented as a mystery where it's like, what am I trying to say? It's obviously set up to where it's like the two other people involved are obviously the people who did it. But then when it's revealed how they did it, it like tries to frame it as though like, oh, you could have figured this out on your own. Which no, we couldn't have. It's just nonsense. I was hoping I would like this one, but not so much. Alright, Shoshimin off the list. So we got one more random quality assurance in another world. The only thing I know about this one is that it had a weird controversy with its key visual where the studio tried to like enhance the key visual with AI and it actually looked worse, obviously. So not high expectations going in, but let's jump into it anyway. The words. Well, I don't think I really needed to finish the first episode of that, but I did anyway, and I'm kind of glad I did solely because it gives me more shit to whine about. I watched a little more than one episode of Quality Assurance in Another World. So when we get these, like, long isekai title names and stuff, it's like, oh, what's the gimmick gonna be for this one? And for this one, I was gonna be like, oh, is he gonna be like, what's he gonna be, like a salesman or like an insurance broker in another world or something? Like, I was leaning towards like insurance guy in the other world, because it's like he's doing a bunch of paperwork as like dragons are stampeding through town. But it turns out the plot twist is this is actually a video game essay that he has been trapped in, like a virtual reality video game that he has been trapped in SAO style. And he was originally a bug tester for the game. And you know what? Cool premise. However, the bug doesn't make any sense. Or at least they don't, like, fully explain how the bug works. Like, actually, okay, no, I'm figuring this out in real time now. As the fact that I have to think this hard about it, I guess you can make a judgment on whether that's good or bad. So, like, the implication that he has been trying over and over again to, like, save this village, I guess. He was only supposed to test it for bugs, but, like, every time he, like, defeats did he defeat the dragon before? I don't know. But, like, keeps trying to save this village from a dragon attack, and he keeps failing every time. And even though he succeeded this time, the villagers still got, like, all burned up anyway, which I presume is part of the glitch. I guess you could just hand wave that away as saying, well, it's the bug. But that doesn't seem like a bug that would happen. Like, just the villagers just spontaneously combust when like, some random amount of time after the event ends. I don't understand what's going on. Maybe I'm dumb. Maybe I'm really tired. This is the day after the election. We're all very tired. So very tired. But also, regardless of that, not a great looking show. Lot of real jank character models. Not a lot of great movement. And something I almost never notice, that this is how you know your production's in the fucking gutter. There were, like, sound effects missing. Like, there were people, like, swinging hose in the background and hitting the dirt, but there was no sound effect going with that impact. And it just felt very, like, it felt weird and off, because you could like, this is stuff that's happening in the foreground. Like, it's not like shit way in the background, but even then, usually you get background noise like that. It's just, and that's not the only time it happened. There's, like, multiple times in this first episode where there's sound effects just missing. And it's so weird and off-putting. And these character designs are unique. I'll give them that much. But, not the best. I did like the dragon designs, though. The dragon designs were pretty cool. Anyway. No. Let's move on. Alright. Quality assurance in another world coming off the list. Which means we're finally down to our last summer season entry. Monogatari series. Off-season and monster season. I just, a couple weeks ago or so, I finished re-watching all of Monogatari in preparation for this. I am so hyped. Let's fucking go. Oh yeah, that's the good stuff, baby. Oh yeah, Monogatari is still kicking. Alright, just finished up Monogatari off-season and monster season. This adapts Nadeko Draw with a little bit of Tsukihi Undo at the beginning, and then the Acerola Bon Appetit / Shinobu Mustard arcs. One of which I like significantly more than the other. Not that one is bad, but one... Let's put it this way. If it had just been Nadeko Draw, if it had just been that, this would have been a 10 out of 10 season for me. So let's fucking jump into that. Nadeko has always been, like, A, one of my personal favorite Monogatari characters, and B, a fan favorite character. So, like, another Nadeko arc, of course it's going to be fucking good. But they really, really dug into it this time, because it's like, we really get, like, this whole spectrum of Nadeko's character if you just watch all of Monogatari back to back. Which I did. Honestly, would not recommend binging it, because Monogatari is a very fucking dense series. I came away with some, like, interesting ponderings on it, where it's like some series I liked a little bit more, some I liked a little bit less. Like, for example, when I first watched it and when I binged it, I actually didn't like second season all that much. This time around, liked it a lot more. Still not quite one of my favorite seasons, but it's got one of my favorite arcs in it. Hitagi End is like a top 5. I think at this point it's my 3rd favorite now. But yeah, I binged all of Monogatari before diving into this. And so getting to being reminded of the full span of Nadeko's character over this series really was a great way to, like, refresh myself on it before diving into what is essentially a post-op on Nadeko's character, sort of. Like, it's her looking at all of her past selves, her past, like, identities, the meekness of her, like, introduction, the flirtiness that she conveys around Araragi, the wrath that she exhibits when she finally, like, snaps and the facade falls away, and then, like, her god arc of just being full-on fucking psychopath. Interestingly enough, that is the reason why I started watching Monogatari. Back when... y'all remember Tumblr? Tumblr used to be a fucking incredible place for discovering anime. Because you would just search through... You would just see, like, GIFs of anime getting, like, reblogged across your timeline, and one of them was of Nadeko Medusa, like, her in her god form, and I was like, that looks really fucking cool. Let's watch that. But anyway, just see, it's... Nadeko Draw is basically sort of a reflection... Nadeko reflecting on her past and, like, realizing where she went wrong, but also embracing the fact that this is part of her history, part of her personality. These aren't, like, separate entities from her. They are her, and there's still little bits of them here and there inside her. So it's, like... it's such an incredibly important, like, realization. Like, it made me, like, think back on, like, all the phases of my life, and certain, like, me in, like, grade school and middle school, me in high school, me in the first half of college, me in the second half of college, and just how I changed as a person. And having to accept that all of those are part of who I am. And it's just such an incredibly thorough and deep and very, like, sensitive and heartfelt, like, attempt at this kind of story. Like, I think, like, yeah, I haven't read any, like, interviews or anything with Nishio Isin, the original author, but I think he really, like, loves Nadeko as a character that he has written. Like, perhaps even, like, an extension of himself to some degree. There is so much care and, like, empathy around this character, not just in Nadeko Draw, but, like, across the entire series. She's such an incredibly sympathetic character in the weirdest ways. And all that comes to a head in this arc. This is Nadeko Draw is to Nadeko like Koyomi Reverse was to Koyomi. This sort of broad reflection on like this character that has been studied in depth throughout the series and like what conclusions they have to come to at the end of their journeys. Um, I will say Koyomi Reverse is also one of my favorite arcs. I ended season 2 of 12 Days of Anime with it. Sort of. Kind of. You kind of have to watch all my 12 days for season 2 to really get that video. But anyway, I got off track already. Yes, I like, and I will say it was like the final, like, discussion, like, conversation, confrontation with Meek Nadeko, that really, like, broke me because it was such an incredibly, like, innocent question. Like, this middle school girl who now is no, she's not in high school yet. That's the other thing. This middle school girl going like, wait, you don't love Araragi anymore? I don't want to stop feeling that. And just this, like, current day Nadeko being just completely overwhelmed by that and embracing that part of her. Like, realizing that there are aspects of her past self that shouldn't be, like, forgotten, shouldn't be separated from her. And, like, learning that it is being, like, head over heels in love with someone is, like, a good thing sometimes. It is okay to have that feeling. And not to just completely discard it when it leads you down the wrong path. That part actually got me to start crying. That was just the perfect bow on top of all of this. Nadeko is easily one of my favorite anime characters of all time. Like, definitely my favorite Monogatari character. Like, she's in my top 10 on Mel, I believe, so yeah, she's just incredible. And I really liked the sort of, in typical Monogatari fashion, we get this really weird supernatural setting around it. In this case, it sort of leans into like a sort of the classic trope of like, oh, what if you clone yourself in order to get more work done? But I love that it like goes wrong immediately. Like, there's no like, oh, they start doing the work that current day Nadeko wanted to do, and then something went wrong. Immediately, it's just like, nope, fuck you, we're out, bye, bitch. So that was really fun, and I also, yeah, that was just Nadeko Draw is like a perfect arc. It is a 10 out of 10. I love the lead-in with Tsukihi Undo with this fucking weird snail monster that she has to fight in order to convince not Tsukihi, Ononoki. God, now I'm getting these fucking characters mixed up. Anyway, Ononoki has to fight this giant snail monster in order to convince Tsukihi that she's actually a magical girl. Fucking hilarious, and it also sets up the like use of like Nadeko's ability to draw things and bring them to life. Um, and I love, yeah, hey, totally has nothing. Me loving Nadeko totally has nothing to do with the fact that she's like the creative person in the series. Totally has nothing to do with that. um, yeah, it's just good, and it's fucking gorgeous looking too. This is the first. Well, this is. I'm not gonna say it's the first, but this is probably the best looking season of Monogatari. It is definitely up there. Like a lot of Monogatari, like especially in the early seasons, it takes a little bit to spin up. Like it always doesn't always look super incredible right out the gate. It always looks interesting. It always has really interesting like color design and cinematography and stuff and set design. But it wasn't until I think Hana Monogatari where immediately it's just like, oh, this is beautiful right out the gate. Off season is fucking gorgeous immediately, and it stays that way for the entirety of Nadeko Draw and through Acerola Bon Appetit, which yeah, it's I can't even describe all of the ways that it is beautiful because it just does everything. The Sakuga is fucking fire. Color design is so vibrant and cool and eye-catching. Character designs are great, as always. These are Akio Watanabe designs. The same classic designs we're used to. But they just look incredible here. In particular, I think the color design in Acerola Bon Appetit is fucking gorgeous. Extremely gothic in tone. Very, very deep reds and blacks and yellows. Now, my hot take on the Monogatari franchise is that I don't like how Kizu Monogatari looks. I just don't. I don't like how the grays and pinks contrast each other. I just don't like that how that looks. So my addition to that hot take is that Acerola Bon Appetit is how Kizu Monogatari should have looked. Or at least that I would have liked to see what that would look like. Because it's just a immensely striking and gorgeous 2 episodes. And then that rolls into Shinobu Mustard, which is not a 10 out of 10 arc. Still a really, really solid Monogatari arc. It's much more like mystery, puzzle-centric than Nadeko Draw is, with these weird like prime number puzzles and cryptograms and stuff. Which it really, like, the motivation for the puzzles does not make sense until like the final episode, really. Or like maybe like, see, I can't remember where the reveal for who the culprit actually is. I can't remember if it was the final episode or the or the penultimate episode, even though I just watched it like less than a half hour ago. But I think in hindsight that sort of like adds to like the mystery of it all. It's like, why the fuck is this does this puzzle even exist? Doesn't make any sense. And I will say this is the Monogatari formula of going to keep you guessing the entire time that this is going. Just going to constantly throw curveballs at you. And it is a decent mystery. I really did not figure it out until the very end, really, like right before the final reveal of it all. But this one's a like a classic Araragi Shinobu episode where they have to team up to do to address some stuff related to Shinobu's past. In particular, this is where like Acerola Bon Appetit is like the 600 years in the past where where Shinobu is still the beautiful princess, Princess Acerola, which we got hints of in Koyomi Reverse in Zoku Owari Monogatari. And so it was cool to finally see the actual events of it. And like we got this very cool like storybook picture half episode detailing the fairy tale version of the beautiful princess. That was really cool as sort of like a halfway point in the series. And it was very fun to see like Shinobu before she was Kiss Shot Asuralorian Heart Underblade. Can't believe I got that right on the first shot. I don't think I've actually said that out loud before. But yeah, we got her with also with her and meeting her master, Deathtopia Virtuoso Suicide Master. God, these names are fucking cheesy and awesome and fun. Love them. I wrote not a lot of like character development in this second arc, but there's a lot of characterization, a lot of interesting characterization in it, with just revealing more sides to Shinobu's like vampire past, and just Deathtopia is just a very fun character to see everyone interact with. We got more of Gaien, and like she seemed like not quite frazzled, but like annoyed. It was fun to see her be like annoyed at something. So yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say about this arc. It also sort of like went back to like how Monogatari, like the more standard Monogatari look of like not quite as much movement, and the more standard color palette for a Monogatari series. So again, it still looks really good, but when you compare it to Nadeko Draw, it is a downgrade. I think that's really my only complaint about this season, is that it front loads it with this fucking phenomenal character study 10 out of 10 arc with the most creative artwork and animation that Monogatari has ever had, and then it just goes back to being like more standard Monogatari. This is like in the Shinobu male Shinobu time realm of stuff, which again is still really good, but just the downgrade is there. But either way, oh yeah, actually, one of my actual few complaints about this is in Nadeko Draw, a lot of the soundtrack is just rearrangements of Renai Circulation, which, if you'll recall, is the OP that Kana Hanazawa did back in the first season, back in Bakemonogatari for the Nadeko Snake arc. And so, like, it comes up a lot. And I wish they had used it more sparingly, I guess, in like really key moments, instead of just throwing it out like every third track. Um, but yeah, that's really my only like actual like complaint about this season. And aside from that, and like the fact that the first arc is so much better than the second arc. Um, also, I is Nishioshi Noisin trying to say something with him constantly, not constantly, but like starting to dress Araragi in like girls' clothes a lot more often now. Like he did it in Koyomi Reverse, I believe. And now he's doing, and then he did it again in at the very end of this arc, and it's just like, you got something to say here, buddy? What's going on? Uh, and the fact that that's reflected in Ogi, like changing gender essentially, like Ogi. Technically, Ogi starts the series as a boy because they're first introduced in Hana Monogatari, I believe. I think? I don't remember if... No. Wait. No. I think they were at... I think they were introduced in second season first, actually. So, and they were introduced as a girl then. Then in Hana Monogatari they were a boy. And then they went back to being a girl. And at once Ogi Dark happens, and that's all resolved, that is when like the change actually, like in the timeline occurs, that Ogi becomes a boy. So I guess we'll have to watch more or read more Monogatari to find out. Who knows? Um, but yeah, I had a hell of a time with this series. Glad that I saved it for last. Monogatari is good shit. Alright. Monogatari off-season and monster season is complete. We're going to scroll all the way up to the top here. And we're going to put you in the number 3 spot for the year. Yeah, you're going to get... Yeah, fuck it. You're going to get a decent 9. That was so goddamn good. And with that, we are now officially done with the summer anime season. Now, let's do a little bit of post-op on this season. My expected minimum completion was 12, and my maximum was 22, so let's take a look. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So 15 completed, a little bit closer to that 12 than that 22. But still in the general range as I expected. In terms of like the composition of stuff that I've completed, it looks like I got 1 film in here and 1 short film, and most of these are like full series completions, which I was not expecting, especially with all of the stuff that I front-loaded at the very beginning of the series. So, let's see, any new stuff that's noteworthy? Yatagarasu and Wistoria, Dead Demons, Mayanaka Punch, Garden of Remembrance, Makeine. Actually, a lot of new OPs. Not quite as... Like, this is not the season for sequels, for me personally. I think there were a bunch of other sequels that I just didn't watch because I didn't bother. But also, there were some pretty noteworthy sequels, too. I mean, obviously, Monogatari, My Hero, Oshinoko, and Kimi ni Todoke. I will say next season and the winter season are definitely going to be bigger sequel seasons, but that's for another time. Speaking of which, already got the list ready for the fall
2024 season. So tune in about, well, like 6 weeks probably, for when I dive into that. Until then, my name is Ember, and I'll see you next time.